don't need a high-end designer or a lot of money to get a luxe look. Be your own interior designer.
This is Affordable Interior Design, the podcast.
Here's your host, Betsy Helmuth.
My last question comes from Cindy. Cindy is writing from Winnipeg. And Cindy, going to Winnipeg is my only experience with Canada. I went to their folk festival when I was in college, and it was amazing. I went to college in Minnesota, so we just drove right up to Winnipeg and went to the Winnipeg Folk Festival, and it was like the Coachella I guess it was like if Coachella and Woodstock had a baby. A baby who was broke and drove up in a Toyota and was basically living out of the Toyota for a week while we attended the folk festival. So it wasn't as glamorous as Coachella seems, and it wasn't as groundbreaking as Woodstock seemed, but it was certainly memorable. All right, back to your question, Cindy. You write, Betsy, I love your podcast. I've been binge listening since I discovered you. You are not only informative and encouraging, you're also very expressive. I love that you speak clearly and that you enunciate well. It suits your directive style of coaching. Thus, the reason for me reaching out. I know I'll get a distinct answer, one that I can act on without doubt. Attached is a picture of my dark barnwood shiplap fireplace wall. Because of your podcast, I've been confident in decorating my home, but this wall has me stumped. We aren't able to remove the barnwood, and so I'm trying to decide what to do. We will be painting the other walls, but I haven't made a decision on that yet. This is part of an open concept space. It's a long room with a U-shaped kitchen and a dining room in front of the patio doors. The living room is 14 feet by 14 feet, and the ceilings are 9 feet. The fireplace is 14 feet wide. I'm thinking I'd like to paint or maybe whitewash it. What would you suggest for a mantle and surround? Should I put built-ins along the side? I live by the lake and will be decorating beach farmhouse shabby chic. I prefer neutral colors like gray, white, and blue. Thank you for your advice, and thank you for helping us through these difficult times. I so look forward to hearing from you. Sincerely, Cindy. Well, Cindy, thanks for your kind word, and thanks for sending in your image. Yes, it is dark in here. You have like dark floors that have a lot of differentiation. They have a strong wood grain, they have knots, and then of course this wall with the shiplap definitely looks very rustic, definitely looks like barn wood. It's a really fun vibe. The first red flag I see is that you're kind of all over the place with your style. Beach, farmhouse, and shabby chic are each distinctive styles. So I think by having one toe in each, you're going to really confuse yourself as you're starting to choose items and starting to find a direction for the space. So the first thing to do before you make any design decisions is to lock in those two key words, the style word. So all three things that you listed here, beach, farmhouse, and shabby chic, are styles. We need to narrow it down to one. And then we need to accompany that style word with a feeling word. How do we want to feel in the space? And because it's an open concept space, we need to be thinking about the dining room, the kitchen, and bringing that same two-word phrase throughout the entire open space. Now, if there was a den attached that had doors, if there was a family room attached that had doors, that doesn't need to share the same two-word phrase because it's separate. But when a room is open concept, you need to carry not only the color palette, but also the two-word phrase throughout. All right. So depending on your two-word phrase, that would dictate what I would choose to do with this wall. And keep in mind when you do something with this wall, it's going to be pretty permanent because anytime you paint wood or whitewash wood, it's very, very difficult to undo that without just ripping the whole wall out. So let's really be strategic with our choice. When I first saw this picture, before I had read the question, I said to myself, this room is very dark. And guys, if you want to see how dark this room is, you just heard about my YouTube channel. Head over to affordableinteriordesign.com/links and you can check out Cindy's picture and see the situation. So when looking at this, the floors, if I squint, almost completely blend in with the rustic tones of the barnwood on the wall. Now, because this one wall is treated differently than the other walls, we want to feature it. It's called an accent wall. I don't love accent walls, Cindy, but I'm going to go with it here because you know what I do love doing? I love making things work. As I'm going out with my real estate agent and we're talking about different homes, she's like, "Oh, Betsy, you're an interior designer. You want to make that your own. Just rip it out. Betsy, you're an interior designer. Why don't you just demo that and start again?" And I tell her, I say, "Patty, I am an interior designer who makes her living off of making things work. I love to take something that's a challenge. I love to take something that's a feature, even if it's not a feature that resonates with me. And I like to make it work. So I'll take a fixer-upper, but I'm not going to blow it out. I'm going to take what I have and polish it. And that's what I suggest you do here. So we want to keep the idea of a focal wall since you're not going to rip this out, which means that we wouldn't be covering it with built-ins because then you might as well just rip it out. You're basically trying to hide something with other somethings, right? And I don't think that makes sense here, especially because you live by a lake. So having barnwood walls, might make a lot of sense. I would explore the idea of whitewashing it because the floor is so dark and so similar in tone. As I mentioned, when I squint, it all looks the same. So I love the idea of whitewashing, or here's a fun idea. The wall color is like a gray now, and you mentioned that you might be changing that. But what if you did the wall colors, whatever paint color that's going to be, and then you diluted that paint color and used that to wash the wall? That way you're getting a textural differentiation with the accent wall, but it's not a color differentiation. And I think that that could be quite striking and sophisticated and minimize the barn wall while also kind of up leveling it. So that is definitely something I would be considering. In terms of the mantle, well, it really depends what you do with the wall, of course. One thing I might explore, whenever I'm looking at a room, one of the things I ask myself is what texture is not being represented? What's missing? And what do we have too much of in terms of texture? And I will say we have too much wood with these really dark and very highly naturally patterned floors and with the really present focal wall of the barnwood. So I absolutely would not do a wood mantle. I could see doing a fresh white mantle that reflects the color of the trim in the room. That could be really striking. I could see even doing something in stone. I think that would play up the rustic sort of nature of a lake house and also the rustic sort of nature of that wall while bringing in a new unexpected texture that is often seen with mantles. So I think stone would be great. I think pure white would be great. Those are the only two that are really coming to me. But really, I just go through the list of different materials in my head and think, what haven't we used? What would I like to see here? And what would create beautiful contrast? So those two are coming up for me, and I'm really excited to hear what you do. So Cindy, keep us posted and stay in touch. And I wonder if that Winnipeg Folk Festival is still going on. If so, I hope you'll go out there, spend a couple nights in your car, and enjoy it as much as I did. A big thank you to our amazing producer, Catherine Heller, to Aton and the MCR House Band, and to Affordable Interior Design, the sponsor of this podcast and the premier place to get an amazing look on a budget. Check out affordableinteriordesign.com. If you guys love the show, the very best way to support us is by spreading the word. Tell your friends
or write us an awesome review on iTunes. So until next week, guys, thanks so much for joining us, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.